Hi, I'm Linda Schenck, and I'd like to read you an excerpt from a new novel by Kerstin Ekman, Löpa, varg, or Wolf Run in English. It was published in 2021 when Kerstin Ekman was 88. In 2022, just recently, she was the recipient of a major literary award from a society in Swedish known as the Nio, Society of the Nine. And the citation states, and I quote, "It's for an oeuvre marked by her dynamic insights, unique presence, and magnificent humanism." In this excerpt, we meet the first person narrator, Ulf or Uffe, and his wife, Inga. Inga has been a language teacher before retirement. Ulf worked for the National Board of Forestry. One of several themes of the novel is Ulf's reflections, looking back on what has happened to the natural environment, the natural landscape, and the climate during his lifetime and impacted by his professional role. Another theme is his emotional reactions to aging and not feeling needed. A third is the picture of a long marriage and the relationship between an elderly couple. A fourth is a seminal encounter between Uffe and the wolf of the title, whom he thinks of as Longlegs. All four themes are interwoven into this short passage. Ulf and Inga have been away for just a few days fishing at the Norwegian coast, partly to get away from the heat. In the car, when they are nearly home, they smell a forest fire. I was standing under the spruce that has a nest box for boreal owls. There was the acrid smell of fire. I didn't know yet how large the forest fire up at Korbulle was. I'd driven up the branch roads to check whether any of our parcels were burning. But at the moment I couldn't see smoke or flames. No sparks in the moss. I stood there, staring at the fluff balls under the owl's nest. They were just as dry as everything else this summer, hot as Hades the whole time. In any case, the owlets had learned to fly ages ago and left the nest. I was thinking of Longlegs, too. If he'd picked up the unfamiliar, prickling odor and headed elsewhere, I was sure he had. I was tired and sat down for a few minutes in the moss under the nest box. We'd driven from Storvika, south of Namsos, spelling each other when fatigue hit. We were hurrying home to get all the fish into the freezer. We'd caught collen and cod as well as rosefish. My fingertips were swollen and blistered from all the cleaning and filleting. I think the prickly fins of the sea bass contained some kind of poison. It had been cooler by the coast, thanks to the sea breeze. Some 20 kilometers after Sveg, Inga asked, "Smell that?" She sounded worried, and when she opened the window on her side, I caught the whiff. There was a fire somewhere, but it was a few more kilometers before we could see anything. The air was thick with smoke there, and a dark gray cloud hovered over the forest. By the time we reached the turnoff towards Korbulle, we could see fire in the treetops. We were stopped. Emergency vehicles on the road. No access. "Turn back," a man in a red jacket told us. "Where are you headed?" "To Loåsen." "You'll have to take the long way around. It's a big detour, but there's no other option. The traffic's going to be heavy on this road if they have to evacuate the village." "I'll stay and make myself useful," I said. "My wife can take the car home." "We've got plenty of young men here," he answered. "You head on home." He spoke to me as if I'd been his grandfather. Inga had already moved to the driver's seat, and she turned the car around on the narrow road. I looked at the young men in yellow and red jackets. There were streaks of soot on their faces. The fire was right there, and one of the men was spraying water from a hose. A few more stood nearby, swatting at the embers and the roadside underbrush with their steel rakes. Never in my life have I felt so damned useless. Some feeble old codger, unneeded, impotent. Inga said softly that I better check on my own wounds. She tugged me gently into the car. I'll deal with the fish and get it into the freezer, she added. When we got home, the smell of the fire had reached all the way there, coming in through the open windows. We'd already heard on the news that they might be evacuating Korböle. But what about the animals? Would they escape? Would they know which direction to run? Or would they suffocate from smoke inhalation, be burned? I pictured a fox running out of the woods, badly scorched. Went outside and looked up toward the ridge. Nothing, no wreath of smoke. But what about those parcels of forest land around the Eagle Lakes that had been my dad's and granddad's? I needed to check on them. So there I was, sitting under a spruce, and if it wasn't the moment of truth, it was the hour, or the summer. I was no revolutionary. Most people aren't, are they? I'd earned my living and believed in what the people at the National Board of Forestry were doing, that it was good, most of it anyway. I wasn't the only one who believed that everything was good and would only get better. But right now, as this hot July drew to a close and we had gone off to the coast, I reached the point of realization. I had been wrong. Things weren't getting better. I was sitting under a spruce, surrounded by dry as hay boreal owl fluff balls, and had this realization. The forest was on fire in Korböle, in Inga, in Enskogen, and up at Nötberget. The man who told me to head home considered the village of Korböle at risk. I was still sitting there in a torpor when my cell phone rang. It was Inga, of course. I told her neither our woods nor any woods nearby were on fire, and that I was on my way home. Thank you.